of the show for today. The topic is Islam, politics, and terrorism, and we have as our guest Dr. Leonard Madu. Now, Dr. Madu, let's simply give you an opportunity to pick up where you left off during that second segment, because all of this information is so very, very revealing, leading to our involvement with Islam and with politics and terrorism. Go on and pick that up.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the myths we have today, you know, is that the Islamists, you know, are the precursors of terrorism, you know, in the world. But that's not true. You know, the fact is that because of 9/11 and subsequent events, you know, their own activities have been amplified. But if you go back a little bit to the 70s, 80s, 90s, there were a whole range of terrorist groups that are not Muslims, okay, you know, that don't have any identification. For example, the individual who introduced airline hijacking was a man called Dr. Elias Wadi Haddad. He's a Christian, you know, who lived in Mogadishu, belonged to the Palestinian group. He's a Christian. The leader of the most vicious Palestinian group at that time, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, was Dr. George Habash. He's a medical doctor and a Christian. You know, he's not a, listen, the Japanese Red Army, you know, that attacked Israel in 1972 at Lord Airport was led by a man called Kozo Okamoto from Japan. He's not a Muslim. You had the Italian Red Brigades that assassinated Prime Minister Aldo Moro. They are not Muslims. You know, you have the Irish Republican Army that assassinated Lord Mountbatten. You know, they are not Muslims. In Peru, you had the Sendero Luminoso, you know, Shining Path. They are not Muslims. You have the Tupameros, you know, guerrillas in Uruguay. You know, they are not Muslims. You had the Monteneros in Argentina. They are not Muslims. And all these groups, you know, were the precursors of terrorism all over the world. You know, so most people don't know that, because at that time some of these groups were either urban, you know, concentrated in one country, or the international activities weren't really that threatening to our governments to intervene, or we are using some of them. You've heard of Carlos Gijaco, you know, from Venezuela, who kidnapped, you know, all the OPEC ministers in Vienna. He's not a Muslim. So this is very important to understand in the light of what is happening now. You know, that we've had these groups, you know, perpetuating terrorism all over the world, who are not Muslim affiliated or Muslim related. In fact, some of them were sponsored even by Western governments, you know, to carry out their will. You know, so one will ask, well, why do Muslims have to be, you know, tagged as the only terrorists in the world? It's just because of the political dimensions of what is happening now, and it's because it's religious affiliated. You know, most of these terrorists that I've already mentioned are secular, what you call secular terrorists. You know, the difference is that this is religious terrorists, and of course, when someone, you know, gets on religion, all of us get very sensitive.
Very good.
You know, and that's very, very critical here to differentiate the secular terrorists and the religious terrorists. You know, so this is very important, because most of the religious terrorists use religion as a form of political expression. You know, the secular terrorists have, you know, a stated objective, which might not be political, but at the same time, you know, have a goal, limited goal. You know? So that's very important to understand and be able to differentiate. What should our policy be, you know, towards, you know, Islamic countries? I think the current policy being pursued, you know, by our president is very sensitive. You know, I do not think we should have a confrontational, you know, attitude towards Islamic countries, because most of the Islamic countries are not against the United States. You know, yeah, we have good relations with most of them. Indonesia, for example, they receive a lot of amount of money from us. We receive a lot of oil from Indonesia. You know, countries like Malaysia, they're not against us. You know, Pakistan, even though you have all, you know, Al-Qaeda and all this hiding there, we still, you know, trade with them. We give them a lot of funding for their military and all this. Yeah, India, there are 160 million Muslims, like I said, in India. We are very friendly with India. We are cooperating with them on, you know, a lot of their nuclear facilities and all this. And you name it. Before we fell out with Iran, you know, they were good friends of us when the Shah was there. Yeah, when the Shah was there, they were good friends of us. We were friends with Saddam Hussein before, you know, he turned, you know, against us. Egypt, the largest Muslim state in the Middle East, you know, in the Arab world, has been a very good friend of us. They still receive almost $3, $4, $5 billion a year from us since, you know, the sign of the Camp David Agreement. Jordan, the king of Jordan is a very good friend of the United States. Even the King Hussein, who died, you know, was on the payroll of the CIA. You know, yeah. Kuwait, went to Kuwait to liberate Kuwait. It's a Muslim country.
Okay.
Yeah, Kuwait is a Muslim country. We have bases in Gaza. You know, that's where some of our biggest bases are that we invaded Iraq from. It's a Muslim country. Yeah. So we have good relations with a whole lot of these Muslim countries. So the policy being pursued now by the president, you know, is a sensible, you know, policy, you know, based on realities and dealing with the issues based on individual countries, not lumping all the countries together as if we are at war with Islam or it's a crusade like the Bush government was talking about, you know, yeah, the Christian crusade. And this is not what it is. It's not a Christian crusade against Muslims. You know, we are not crusaders. It's simply, you know, that you had some terrorists, you know, from a particular country, you know, that tried to destroy this country, you know, by way of bombing the World Trade Center. And even if you look at it logically, all the terrorists who did this came from Saudi Arabia. But yet, we are in the best of terms with the monarchy in Saudi Arabia. Okay? Our president just visited over there and met with the king and all this. So one should think about that. That's why a lot of people get confused. For the terrorists came from Saudi Arabia. That's where we should be focusing.
That's right.
Exactly. Okay, that's what we. That's where we should.
If that's what we're looking for, the terrorists.
That's correct. That's where we should be messing with, not Afghanistan or places where they didn't come from. So that's very important to understand. You know, these things have a lot of links and threads attached to them that you just can't separate one and say forget about this. They are all linked. And the President Obama is doing a good job now of trying to calm the tensions. You know, when he went to Cairo and spoke, it was very good. It was well received. You know, we are a powerful country. Everybody knows we are the most powerful country in the world. And messing with the United States, you know, you are taking a chance. You know, so we should show humility and say, hey, we can talk to you all, not just beating up on everybody. But then don't mess with us. If you do, we got something to take care of you. And I think, you know, a big man should be able to, you know, talk to a small person and let that person understand, I will work with you, but don't mess with me. Yes, like somebody who is, you know, 150 pounds going to mess with Muhammad Ali or George Foreman. You know exactly what the consequence will be. Yeah, so it's just the same way. We are big enough to be able to say, work with you, but at the same time, you should understand we have the capacity and ability to deal with you if needs be. You know, so that's exactly the policy we should be following. It's a policy of accommodating Muslim interests, you know,